jointly between the Chiefs Committee on Lands, Territories and Resources and the Government of Canada, a process to create an independent specific claims center, an independent center. My name is Tony Osadik. We're joining you here today from Mi'kmaq territory in the area also known as Halifax. So we want to begin. I'd like to turn it to Elder Martin here to open us up in a good way.
Way, Medawaloptiok. Nin Gadalan and Malta, Weligiskuk. I'd like to welcome all of you to our home. And you picked a great place out on the lake. Junior Marshall used to live around this lake in Fall River. Yeah. So it's a good place to be. I want to offer all of you a welcome to the territory that we've been doing since time immemorial, even past 500 years ago. We welcomed everybody for almost 14,000 years. We had a beautiful ceremony to start, and we're still in ceremony because we're feasting on wonderful words from ourselves, our hearts, and we're speaking on behalf of Mother Earth today. And so we had a smudge outside, and we included all of you who are watching us in our ceremony, so don't feel like you were left out. We can pray using words. We can pray singing and dancing. And this is a chant that Sarah Denny of Eskasoni taught many of us after it was safe in this country for us to sing and dance and do our ceremonies. And after 1960, when we were given the right to vote. And Sarah was one of those that kept the 14,000 plus years of our knowledge inside until it was safe. And she taught so many people that are my age now and older to sing this chant. It's the feast chant or a gathering chant whenever we gather with nations, whenever we celebrate life, death, weddings, gatherings. And it's not just before we eat. We feast on people's words, and we've asked all of our ancestors to join us. And if you're thinking of somebody in particular who would really help you today, invite them along, and then we'll send them back at the end. One no day, one no day, one no day, one no day. Guanaria, guano donari. Guanaria, guano donari. Guanaria, guano de. Guanaria, guano de. Guanaria, guano da.
Thank you, Elder Martin. Thank you for getting us off in a good way today. I'm going to turn it over to Regional Chief Paul Prosper, a portfolio holder for Lands, Territories and Resources at the Assembly First Nations.
Thank you, Tonio. Gwe, Aliasikbu, Jalawasi. I'm very honored to be here to take into this ceremony. I'd like to recognize Elder Kathleen Martin for leading us through ceremony, through guiding us through her words, through her prayers, to be joined by my brothers and sisters from across this great country of ours, where we come together and share this historic launch of a truly independent specific claims process between the federal government and Mi'kmaq groups, the Assembly of First Nations, which represent the interests of our collective interests of First Nations from across the country. For many generations, we have sought to resolve these outstanding legal obligations that have been brought against our people through years of advocacy of many First Nations leaders, a lot of which are not here today. But it is through their efforts that we continue the fight. And we do this in recognition of their efforts in their name. Many around this table, both at a political and technical level, have spent many years, decades, trying to do what is best for our people, to give and grant recognition for the rights that we have to the lands and resources which we have used, which has guided us through spirit, through ceremony, for generations upon generations. The creation of a truly independent specific claims resolution center will help the parties to come together under the guise of reconciliation to truly discuss and mediate and settle long outstanding historical grievances that existed. It will not replace the specific claims tribunal, but it will add a very important element to the resolution of claims to allow them to be resolved in a timely and fair manner. There are many elements to this process, and the work has just begun, but we're here to celebrate the launch of this historic event. And so with that, I would like to introduce Minister Mark Miller, who has been leading the way on behalf of the federal government in initiating this very important initiative, along with his staff within Crown Indigenous Relations. So I look to you, Minister Miller. Good
Everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
See that nodding. Quick way. Hello. Bonjour. Waliak sipo. Sakama ag unagapeng. Isigu minadjinok. Epijik ag jingmu. Mindalisi Mark. Wijimuliang. Hello, everyone. Said good morning yet. Still, I said good morning for the record. I wanted to say hi to the chiefs, elders, women and men council. I said my name was Mark and I come from Montreal. Sorry I couldn't be with you there today in Halifax, today. You know, it's a place that's near and dear to my heart, but grateful to you to have me here and on joining you from the unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people. I see a lot of familiar faces around the room, and I think this is a good occasion to start talking about what Chief Prosper and always thanking Elder Martin for getting us off in a good way on a very important matter, and making sure that we're truly moving to something that is independent and reflecting of your concepts of law and how we behave ourselves when we have differences. Addressing grievances present and from the past is an important part of our goal to establish a new relationship with you and your peoples. The reality is, as Regional Chief said, we can't establish that relationship without acknowledging and rectifying mistakes of the past and the best of our ability, including setting specific claims and, as referenced, reforming the resolution process. In the meantime, it is important to note that we have been making efforts to improve the current process. For example, in the spirit of collaboration, my department is engaging with First Nations earlier, more frequently during the claims assessment and resolution process that can be unacceptably long. Changes as well have been made to our mandating process that can settle claims more quickly, and reflecting the guidance of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, we're making use of apologies as part of our acknowledgement of the harms caused by historical grievances, where First Nations see this as an important part of reconciliation and respect towards their communities and the people. Je comprends que la réalisation de progrès sur les revendications particulières est plus lente que nous le souhaiterions. C'est pourquoi nous sommes ici aujourd'hui pour reconnaître et lancer officiellement notre partenariat conjoint sur la réforme du processus des revendications particulières. Ce processus de collaboration s'appuiera sur le travail de base effectué par l'APN lors de vos séances de dialogue avec les Premières Nations en 2017 et 2019 sur votre travail concernant la proposition de réforme des revendications particulières. À cet égard, j'aimerais remercier l'Assemblée des Premières Nations et le Comité des chefs sur les terres, les territoires et les ressources pour le travail et l'engagement considérable qui ont déjà été réalisés en vue de la réforme du processus de règlement de revendications particulières. Nous ne serions pas ici sans vous. We wouldn't be here without you. The ultimate goal of the specific claims reform co-development process is the establishment of an independent specific claims resolution center that facilitates and accelerates the resolution of specific claims and instills more trust in the process. This is something First Nations have been calling for us to do for decades. Important to note that this year we are heading towards a record number of settlement in terms of quantity, in terms of numbers, but we know that it's not enough. It is really something that we have to keep moving and reforming in the way that respects our relationship. We share the vision that the center would be a neutral body. It would make resolution tools like mediation and facilitation more readily available, and it would provide First Nations with resources and information they need to develop their claims, which is at the critical heart and some of the frustration that we see when we meet with First Nations that are not advancing their claims in the timely process that they are fully entitled to. The exact mandate of the Center will be at the heart of our co-development work with AFN and other First Nations partners organizations. We're committed to following your lead and working hand in hand with First Nations to do this work. We're also committed to a reform process that is fully consistent with the principles of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and will contribute to advancing reconciliation between First Nations and Canada. To close, I'd like to say that the launch of this co-development process is long overdue, but it's a good example of partnership. It's about all parties coming to the table, working through differences, and finding solutions together. It's only the beginning, but it's an important step. Permettez-moi de le dire en français aussi. Pour conclure, je voudrais dire que le lancement de ce processus de co-développement est attendu depuis fort longtemps. C'est un bon exemple, un très bon exemple de partenariat. Il s'agit de réunir tout le monde autour d'une table, d'aplanir les différences et de trouver des solutions ensemble. Ce n'est qu'un début, évidemment, mais c'est une première étape bien importante. We know there is a need for ongoing discussions with all First Nations when it comes to finding ways to resolve specific claims. It's why I and officials in the department look forward to continuing this important work together. Walalin, thank you et merci.
Great, thank you very much, Minister Miller. And in coordination with the Chiefs Committee, what we've determined to do for the balance of this meeting is to turn to each of the chiefs on the Chiefs Committee, beginning with Chief Eric Morris. And, apologies. I think we're going to go online first to ensure that we can manage that. Thank you. We have two chiefs that are affiliated with the Chiefs Committee online. And I will ask Cookby Judy Wilson to go first, and then Chief Trish Bernard to go next. We'll then go to the three chiefs that are here in person, and then time permitting, if there are any other political representatives here, we would also invite them, of course, to have an opportunity to speak. So if I could, Cookby Judy Wilson, the floor is yours, yes?
Chief Sanderson here.
Chief Sanderson, okay, we will add you as the third chief online. So we'll go Cookby, Judy Wilson, Chief Bernard, and then yourself, Chief Callan Sanderson.
First of all, I just want to thank the prayers and the drum song this morning that opened us up in a good way, and also connects us to the land and the water there. on our AFN land. Has dealt with these claims over the years, but I think it's really important to be clear about that the current changes, that are being discussed, open up a pathway, but it's really paramount that the reforms are co-developed in partnership and protected. Sorry, I got calls coming in. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. Okay, there. That are co-developed in partnership, and then our role and what we're doing within that process is protected in the legislation. And the subsequent governments may not share this commitment, Minister Miller. I just wanted to make sure that those processes continually involve us and are about us, because these are the government policies, but they're talking about our land, they're talking about our water, they're talking about, our responsibilities as inherent caretakers and the violations that were done by the governments. So, we have to be part of those processes, and that's really important. So I just wanted to underscore that part. I know that chiefs have, they will raise a lot of issues. I just wanted to raise that and thank everyone for the good work that they put into this and the launch that we have today. We've been waiting for it for a long time. We have to report back something to our chiefs that something is moving. The goalpost always seemed to move, but now it feels like we're, getting a little closer there, but we still have a lot of work to do. Thank you, Minister Miller.
Thank you, Cook B. Wilson. We'll turn next to Chief Bernard, who is also online.
Good morning to those out west, and good morning to good afternoon to those in the east. I want to thank Elder Kathleen for her opening, and that was very nice. I also want to thank Regional Chief Prosper for all his work that he's been doing. I met Chief Prosper over 20 years ago through specific claims when I was working with the department, and he was working for one of the research organizations in Nova Scotia. So it's been a long time coming that this is happening, this launch of this, as Chief Prosper called it, historical event and initiative, because we've been living it. And 20 years may seem like a drop in the bucket, but it's, when you're working at it every day, it's quite an extensive thing. So I'm quite happy to be a part of this announcement, and quite happy with the fact that Canada is making efforts to improve the process. And I know that some of those improvements came about because of some of the issues that our community had to deal with, particularly the Order in Council issue. After waiting decades for a positive validation of our claim, we had to wait even longer. So I'm quite happy to be a part of this, and I want to thank you, Minister Miller, for being a part of that. And as Judy Wilson mentioned, we're just hoping that this is going to continue. Like, this isn't just a one government initiative, that it will continue on. And the relationship is very important here. It's positive, but because of our history, and specific claims is about history, we need to remain cautious. And I'm always cautious. Things are going to happen fantastic, and then boom, you fall. And I'm just hoping that this is, on an upward trajectory that continues to stay upward, and that roller coaster doesn't loop down, because that's my experience, my personal experience with specific claims. So again, I'm very happy that this is happening, and I want to thank all the chiefs on this committee. I'm one of the newbies, so I'm the newbie to the committee, not to specific claims. So, but I'm quite happy to be part of all of this, and I look forward to how this all unfolds together. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Chief Bernard. We'll turn next to Chief Calvin Sanderson, who is also online from Saskatchewan, I believe. Chief Sanderson.
Thanks, Antonio. It's just short and sweet, I guess, more or less. I don't know if you hear anything in the background here, but I just wanted to thank Antonio and the chiefs out. I'm sorry I couldn't participate there. I do have other commitments here in meetings. Just to ask the minister, I know I've approached him many times about our Chigasté Basin reinstatement and the negotiations that we're continuing with Canada right now. And unfortunately, you know, one of my main comments with the ministers and Canada was that I got to be grateful here that we haven't lost anybody prior to September 4th in our community. But as you can see, the tragedy that we inherited back that day, that I've always cautioned Canada to reinstate our bans and negotiate our land claims fairly. And I understand that we are underneath the Indian Act ban, the 370. But at this stage, the way I look at it, we never created any of this. It was Canada that put us underneath that umbrella of 370. And I think you have to move forward and honor our membership here and reinstate our bans and honor the other two First Nations where they want to have their own autonomy and their own economic development. And that's what we seek here as a chief. As the former chief mentioned, 20 years. I've been at this for 22 years. I've been at this since 1984 when this thing first came out in our community, looking at pathfinding if Chigasté Basin existed. You know, these are many, many years and decades of hard work our former leaders have did, and the current leaders that are doing that today, and the researchers. So I don't know what kind of solution I'm looking for here. I need some kind of light at the end of the tunnel here. And yeah, I think the minister's got to understand that we as the three communities, the sectors back at home, I can't speak for, but I'm here to ask, there's got to be a way to reinstate our ban. There's got to be a way to look at moving forward for my membership here. You know, we've always been criticized, and we feel that this community is not our place. We understand that we were raised there many years ago with our forefathers, but we weren't the ones that said, I want to move and stay at 370. We had our own land base. We got to move back. We got to move forward. We got to start moving and making commitments here for my membership. I sure wouldn't mind if we can look at these things seriously with all the ministers, the Justice Minister, Privy Council, parliamentaries, whatever. So that's my opening comments. And I'd just like to thank the chiefs back over there. I'm sorry again, I couldn't be there in person due to the overwhelming circumstances that we endured back at home here, which is still a lot of grievances and a lot of healing we have to do for many years to come. You know, for me as a chief and my colleagues, I just hope someday that we can start building our own community right from scratch, and our own First Nations will build that. So that echo that, and I thank for the AFN and all the ministers for their condolences and prayers and what happened on September 4th in our community band members. So thank you again for listening to me, and I appreciate it just having this little time to speak to the minister and all the chiefs. I go say now.
Thank you, Chief Sanderson, and our hearts go out to you and your community. for the tragedy that took place in September. I just want to acknowledge the many people that have joined us here. Welcome. We're going to proceed with the chiefs from the Chiefs Committee, each in turn to have an opportunity to speak. Time permitting, we will open it up to other political leadership. But first, I'd like to turn to Chief Eric Morris, please.
Chief. I want to say good Chief to our elder for leading us in ceremony this afternoon, and say good morning to and good afternoon to all those that are able to join us today. Wanted to also acknowledge our Regional Chief Prosper for helping to host this on his traditional territory. Give Seguinus Chief to the Mi'kmaq for allowing us to be on their sacred lands. Seguinus Chief to our Ha'ankau, our creator, for bringing me to these lands here, and Seguinus Chief to our ancestors for watching over us as we gather. Seguinus Chief to the minister. I had the privilege of being able to see him last week, and want to extend my gratitude to him and for the time that he has afforded to us and all the things that we are doing. And just in relation to the work that's being done, like as mentioned, I am new to the committee as well. But I also wanted to say that, that I think that one of the things that's really important about what is being done, and just in reflection to some of the things that I've read Regional Chief Prosper saying, this work is about finding a better way forward that builds on the efforts that have been put forth by past leaders, and the thinking that needs to be applied to what they envisioned for what we are responsible for carrying out today. And that the government looks favorably on those efforts and really acknowledges the work that's being put forward, and makes it a part of their own mandates as governments, and look at how they can reflect our desires and aspirations in terms of what it is that we desire for ourselves and our lands. I come from the Yukon Territory, where we have 14 First Nations, 11 of which have settled we settled our agreements. Our process of negotiation started in 1973. And it took those many years to be able to reach a final agreement, which was reached finally in 1993. And the effort that was put forward in those days was long and arduous, with very little resources and limited capacity. And when I look back and reflect on that and look at what we have today, we've built capacity. We've been able to find more resources to do the work that we're doing today. And I think that's significant in regards to the opportunities that are before us. I'll look at the work of the committee, and as mentioned through our gatherings the last couple of days, the work that we're doing is in many ways integrated into the other committees that are within the Assembly. And the Assembly is there to look at how it can create the adequacy that it needs to do to help support the First Nations that are in this country. And it's by my participation and our participation that we bring our experiences to the work of the committee, with the technicians that are there that have the insights of the work that they see as being necessary for the various things to happen. And I believe that, as we are, from where I come from in my homelands, as we see ourselves as being part of the land and part of the water. We have a responsibility to those that have gone before us to secure a future for those that are yet to come. And that's our ultimate responsibility. As one of our clan leaders said, one of my clan leaders had said, when we come into this world, we come into this world with nothing. When we leave with nothing. But what lies in between those 2 points is where we find ourselves today. That we have to be able to do things respectfully, acknowledge the land in which we live, acknowledge the water, acknowledge all the creation, and look after to the best of our ability, because we need to be able to leave it the way we came to it for those that are yet to come behind us. And that's our objective. And one of the things that I think is also necessary is that we always have to be respectful of one another, respectful of the opportunities that are before us in regards to what it is that we want to do, but also be responsible. And as Chief Prosper said, and as I mentioned earlier, it's about finding a better way forward. And the work that we're doing is about finding that better way. Not necessarily to make it easier, but also to make it so that we can meet the needs of those that are looking to us for direction. So with that, I want to give thanks to all of you that are gathered here today and respectfully give thanks on behalf of our people that are of Teslin and of the Yukon. So Gullah Chish to all of you. Gullah Chish.
Thank you, Chief Morris. We'll turn next to Chief Mark Point.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak a few words to the people in this fine community, and thank you, Chief Prosper, for having us and hosting us in the Mi'kmaq territory. Thank you to the Mi'kmaq for hosting us. Thank you to the elder for grounding us and bringing the spirit back to the center, to the beliefs of our people across this great land, with the creator and the spirit of the people that lead us through all of the work that we do. I very much look forward to the work ahead of us, the fine words that have been shared, the wisdom from the table and the elders, and I think the sincere belief of the workers of the government, representatives of the government, bring and share this wonderful opportunity for us to move forward in a good way to resolve our historical wrongs that have been committed to our people, to help begin the process of accepting First Nations people as equal partners in the work that has to be done throughout this land. And don't want to, known for going on and on, so I'll cut it off there and turn it over to my brother, who can go on and on.
Thank you, Chief Point, and we'll turn it to Chief Dalton Silver. We also have a video clip. I'll let you signal when you'd like that to play.
Okay, if Aaron or someone has that now, we could probably start with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Ladies and gentlemen, years. And that is the reason I say, let the young people take over. With all these years I've worked on Indian land question, we never got nowhere. We've gone to Ottawa, we've gone to Victoria, and we never got no answer. And that is my reason. I said, let the young man take over. And we guys, older people, sat back. When we were in Terrace, the other day I was asked to get up and speak. And I turned Bill down. They asked me why didn't want to speak. Us old guys,
Is the CIS. Thank you, Chief Prosper. Thank you, Kathy Martin, for opening us up in a good way today. For bringing, as we say, our elders to be with us, provide us strength. I want to share with you that man was the Lachito. He was known as a spokesman for a lot of the Coast Salish people, and namely the Stolo people in the Fraser Valley of BC. I am Lamhailto, That man was my grandfather. He, and he came and took me out of residential school in Mission, BC, to go and attend that meeting. He thought it was important that I hear what was going on there. And he talked about that being at this work for over 40 years in 1975. He talked to me a bit about some of the things they had to go through to meet before 1960. They had to meet in private, in secret in Canada. And he sat on the executive of the North American Indian Brotherhood. He said in the US they could meet in a huge auditorium and no one would bother them. But in Canada, they were afraid to go to jail, gathering and discussing what it is they had to talk about. I brought this up at a meeting previous, and I'm so glad. I thank the Union of BC Indian Chiefs, the archives, the resource center for having this and other treasures in their file. A reference to the things that our elders and the ancestors before them went through. But that was in 1975, and here we are, we're over 40 years after that, and we're still dealing with the same thing. Someone talked about the injustices done to our people and the injustice of removal from our lands, from our homelands, and the injustice of having to prove our existence to the newcomers on our homelands as part of the specific claims process. That is so harsh for our people to deal with. And I mentioned the residential school, that's a part of the injustice as well. I'll have to say that after my grandfather took me to that meeting, I was not in that residential school for more than a couple of months after, which I never went back there again. But I think it's a historic day for us today, in the hopes that we can look forward to a process that isn't so onerous as we've dealt with in the past. In the addition to reserves process as well, we look forward to trying to come to resolve there, because the reserves for most of our people are inadequate. And I've said it before that the reserve process, even in the past, whereby we're put on these small pieces of land in our territories, I don't know of any chiefs or elders or people in their histories that have talked about being satisfied with the reserves that were cut out for them. And what my grandfather was talking about there, that was in the Union of BC Indian Chiefs Assembly in Chilliwack, 1975. He talked to me about his reserve being at one time 12,000 acres. I had the honor of serving as chief for Yakoklius, where my grandfather was from, through the traditional system. Their reserve is now 50 acres. We have some evidence that shows the reserve I'm from, and that's not inclusive of the Sumat tribe, where we have other villages that have reserve lands. We had 40,000 acres, inclusive of what was once Sumat's Lake. Now we have 600 acres. So, we're all stuck in a situation that is not good for our people. And as mentioned by Chief Morris, our spirits are the very flesh and blood of our ancestors in the lands that we live on, our homelands. There are stories that will talk about that, about we being the land and the land being us. And I think, it's a good announcement today. I think where we can attempt to put our heads together to look for a better place in the future for the loved ones, the ones that aren't here yet. Thank you so much. And I'm honored to be here amongst you today.
Thank you, Chief Silver. Appreciate your sharing with us. With the bit of time that we've left, I understand there are some chiefs here in the room with us that we'd love to give an opportunity to speak briefly. The minister will have to leave at some point. We understand at 1:45, so there's not a lot of time here, but I would like to open it up. Chief Leroy Denny, please, if you'd like to say a few words.
I'll say a few words. Honored to see your father. My grandfather was chief back in the 60s. I'm here on behalf to support my regional chief, PJ Prosper, and just here for support and for the invite. But it's really interesting what you're talking about here, and I just want to mention and put a notice out there as well that Indian nations back in the day should be held accountable. There's other injustice that happened with our lands. Other lands were sold to the outside people, and I believe that the platform I've been looking for is this one. In Eskatooni's, which is the largest Mi'kmaq community in Nova Scotia here. Today we have over reaching 5,000 people, and also we have a large poverty rate. We are doing our best as a community to improve our community. Just so many of us with the funds we've been getting. What I'm getting at is, back in Ontario, we had centralization in two places. One in Cape Breton, which was Eskatoni. All the 5 communities were forced to move to Eskatoni. And in the mainland area here, we have Sipekne'katik, which is the second largest community in Nova Scotia. And all these small bands were forced to move there as well. Well, that project didn't work out. And you would see that story on APTN that we mentioned here. We want an apology to be issued, some sort of compensation. And all of our lands, for example, in Eskatoni, Eskatoni used to be around the lake we have there. Now we're just forced into reserve because Indian agents at the time and the people were trying to put our specific claims and it didn't work because the records weren't there. And because many of these lands were being cheated by the Indian agents, according to the stories the elders that told us. And we want that work, and whoever was behind at the time to be held accountable. Apologies needed. Our community suffered a lot back in the 30s and 40s during centralization. They were promised house and jobs and everything back in the days. And what ended up happening was many women took sick. And as a student, when I was a student, I did some interviews to these elders and that went through the centralization. They took sick and they ended up getting heating, tuberculosis. Many women end up in the hospital, not a couple of weeks, like a couple of years in the hospital. They couldn't take care of their kids. Where did the kids end up? Where did they end up? Residential school. That's what happened, many of them. So this injustice happened, and other record, we can't find any records. We have stories, we have proof that we had these lands around our lake. And as you mentioned, we had 12,000 acres. We had a lot of land, and we're kind of forced community the way it is now. And so we want justice. Many of our communities, small communities, just forced outside. So we hope that we're heard, and we're going to start this process, and we're going to expect some letters that we need something. We need settlement. We need apology. The Chinese in BC were centralized as well. And I think the Harper government issued that apology, and they issued land and taxes and all these things, all these good things to the Chinese back in around that era. That project they pushed the Chinese up north of BC, and they were compensated just a couple of years ago by I think the conservative government issued apology and compensation. And I'll be looking for that in our communities here in Nova Scotia in the very near future. A lot of it.
Thank you, Chief Denny. I would invite Chief Deborah Robinson as the next chief to speak briefly.
And I will be brief. My name is Chief Deborah Robinson. For those of you who don't know me, been chief since 1987, 35 years, seen a lot, been around cross country,
Of Acadia Bay?
everywhere, all over. But I must say, I'm just Oh, Acadia First Nation, sorry, Elder, Kathy. Acadia First Nation, which is 6 reserves along southwestern from Halifax to Yarmouth. So I'm not taking time away from these valuable speakers who are here. I'm humbly here, invited. Thank you, Chief Prosper, because without you and your leadership, we wouldn't be here. And we would not be having this event today. And this is just part of the continuous life learning journey of leadership. I can speak to for many hours, but I will not. I am humbled and honored to be here and to listen to all of the guests and welcome you to Mi'kma'ki. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief Robinson, and thank you for your many years of service. Chief Carol Potter, invite you to speak if you'd like.
And I would also, I won't reiterate everything that was being said. I would just like to acknowledge that Regional Chief PJ is doing a good job. We're very proud of him. That's why we're here to support. And we're here to support you all. And I'd be around just to fight with anything else to do with land and Pacific claims and all that, because I've been a fighter for a long time, such as my mother, which is Agnes Potter. She used to be the elder of Canada of the East. So anyway, very proud and honored that we still have her today. So thank you all.
Thank you, Chief Potter. Would invite Chief Corey Julian to speak if you'd like.
I'll just say a few words. Well, I'm a new intern chief of Buckingham Mi'kmaq Nation. From where PJ's from, and I'm just here to support PJ on behalf of Buckingham. No, I just want to say thank you to chiefs here for sharing your stories and sharing your knowledge with us. I think that stuff's important. Something we have to remind ourselves, who we are and continue this fight moving forward. I'm only young and I still see these issues now. And we're going the way I see it, we're going to be fighting for a long time, but to get what we want and where we need to be. But I'm just honored to be here in front of all the chiefs here and all the knowledge in this room. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Julian, and Chief Marshall, please.
My name is William Marshall, Chief of Bullet. I'm really hit the nail right on the head of a lot of what you're saying. They took our land, so it's forcing on reserves. And we're in the same situation where we used to be, we actually found one of the letters, we're 20,000 acres, or 8,000 acres. And we're down to 1,200 acres. We actually found a letter from the Attorney General, the Indian agent way back then, gave the land away. And we had the surveyor also. The surveyor was too damn lazy to do his job, to go around. We used to be like, demographics and politics here, and all these surrounding communities. The surveyor was too lazy to go around, visit all our people. So our community went down 1,200 acres, which was another reason why it was valuable minerals. There was mining. There was iron ore, there was potash, and there was gypsum. For 2 years, they gave us royalties. After 2 years, they took that land back, and then we never signed. We actually have the paperwork for that, and I'm hoping this here is going to be the start of it. And that's just there. We live in a small community, and I always wondered. I'm lucky my parents are still alive. My dad's 88, my mom's 87. My uncle just passed away not too long ago. I always talk to him, my grandmother, and I always tell a story about Chibuktu and all that areas. We lived in, they lived in Diceboro, all over the water. I always wondered why is political by yourself? But you guys could only I can't remember till we're on this side of the lake. We're all by ourselves here. But there was more than that. We lived in Alamadan, Diceboro, Canso, all these areas. I'm hoping I'm not hoping, I know it's going to happen. I just hope it's faster than this slow process. Everybody, and I hate to be called reservation. We're communities now, and we're forced to be on a little tiny piece of land. It shouldn't be like that. And I think we're going to fight tooth and nail to get rid of the reservation system. It's not fair to our community. And we're fighting for our fishing rights. We're fighting for it. We shouldn't be doing that. we're always one step behind, we're always trying to catch up. But once we get there, I think we will. And we will get there. Well, no doubt we will.
Yeah.
You know, just all I can say, well, thank you very much for doing all the Jeeps and we're here.
Chief.
Thank you, Chief Marshall, and thank you to all of the local chiefs that have come here for this event. Very much appreciated. Before I turn it back to Regional Chief Prosper, I do want to be mindful of time and Minister Miller's time. Minister Miller, wanted to turn to you if you had any comments that you would like to make, and also an indication of whether your time in terms of how you're doing before we close off with Elder Marshall. Elder Martin, apologies.
Can you still hear me?
There you are. Yes, go ahead.
I don't have much to add. I think the brief testimonies are pretty stark evidence for where we started, where we are, and where we need to go. And it's not going to be perfect. We know that money can't replace land. We know that much harm has happened that can't be replaced by any type of judicial or quasi-judicial process. But the hopes of our government and work with you is that this does put the process of restitution and compensation in a better place than where it has been up to now. There has been a significant, this is sort of technical babble, but it does impact speed and does show emphasis. But we secured during the last year a significant replenishment of the specific claims fund, over $5 billion. So that is work that is evidence and puts money on the table. Obviously, it doesn't in and of itself hurry up claims, but it does show good faith. And I think it's something that is important to highlight as we lead up to this process, as well as the flexibility to get money and compensation out the door quicker. Chief Sanderson, obviously I have a very special place in my heart. I got my first feather from you, so I remember that fondly at the beginning of my tenure, and the issues that you face in James Smith Cree Nation, particularly the recent history, devastating. Our hearts continue to go out to you. Hope to be able to get out there, as I know Patty has. But there is some unfinished business in making sure that we do have a de-amalgamation, or there's probably a more respectful word for that, but something that truly puts you in the position that you were forced out of into configuration that you have now, as well as a very large claim that actually takes this out of the specific claims cap, which I'm sure will be some matter of discussion, perhaps heated at times. But I don't want to get into specifics right now, as we only have a few more minutes, and I need to shove in the House of Commons and get fired. But I do want to thank you for having me here today, and seeing a lot of faces again, and talking about this crucial topic that, like you said, needs to have traction on in the next short period of time. Alana.
Thank you, Minister Miller. With those comments, I'd like to turn it back to Regional Chief Prosper for any closing comments before we close this event today.
Thank you, Tonio, and thank you, Minister Miller, for your leadership and for getting that mandate to really allow these important discussions to take place, which will cover many issues. These issues have existed for a very long time. I want to recognize my brothers and sisters from across the country that have come here to our territory to share and to provide their guidance and their wisdom and their knowledge, to help guide our discussions, to set that path forward, to allow us to make those decisions jointly through a co-development process, so we can allow our future generations to have a better future. I want to recognize those technical people who have spent decades upon decades, years upon years. I'm not looking at anyone. But I've seen tremendous commitment and passion being exhibited by these individuals. And this is truly a collaborative effort. I also want to recognize the chiefs from the host territory for coming, which I truly appreciate. Thank you for sharing your stories and showing your support. As we all know, these issues don't get resolved today or tomorrow, but with a commitment, that we have witnessed today, it is certainly a step forward. I want to recognize Darlene and Daryl and Rose back there from my community. Thank you for coming. And to thank all of you for all your efforts, for all our collective efforts in what is to come next for us. Walalio, thank you very much.
As we close, I'd like to offer, what is your name? Regional Chief Paul Prosper. My brother-in-law is an avid hunter in Ontario and he loves wild turkey hunting. And this is our original traditional feathers for our traditional chiefs' caps, leaders' hats. So I'd like to offer this to you, and you're going to pass it along, or you're going to pull it out and put it on your head. But it will we'll remember today with this. And that we'll see this in a couple hundred years somewhere, and they'll say that was given on this day.
Thank you so much.
It's on behalf of everybody. You know how you buy the gift and you don't tell anyone else that they're part of it? Well, I didn't know. I'd like to ask all of our ancestors I'd like to thank them for coming. There's no doubt.
The butterball though?
That it?
The butterball?
No, it's a wild turkey. No butter in those days. Moose fat. So I want to thank the ancestors. We asked them to come and help us today and to guide us and be over us. And thanks for Granddad to come and talk to us today. That was very moving. Yeah. I think of the comprehensive land claim white paper report that Joe B. Marshall and the Union Nova Scotia Indians put in back in the 60s, and it was refused. So I'd like to thank Sarah Denny for ensuring that we never forgot these. Most of you are related to her somehow. Oh,
Thank you, everyone. We appreciate your being here and look forward to reporting on future work. Thank you to Regional Chief Prosper and other members of the Chiefs Committee. Have a good afternoon.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Thanks so much.
Wow. Oh, that's right. Yes.